Hello, welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is Paper Talk. Got a lot of news to go through, so we're going to start with the ownership situation. Now, there's been a couple of comments coming out, and obviously Ed Woodward did an interview in United We Stand, answering quite a few questions. One of the quotes he said was in regards to the Glazers. And he said, based on what I see, they're in it for the long term. Regards to the offers or asking prices, my understanding is that there has been no discussion for a price for the club or anything like that. Every conversation we have is based on the long term. Now, that could be one of two things. It could be he's not heard anything. There has been no contact. It's all fabricated. Or it could be a business move. Because obviously, it's like with the price of a player. As soon as you say you're willing to sell, the price goes down because obviously you have no bargaining tactic. You can't negotiate the price because you've obviously showed your hand. So that's a very interesting way to look at it. There's also been other reports earlier on in the week, last week, that Kevin Glazer was apparently looking to sell his 13% stake in the club. Now, this means that other major stakeholders wouldn't be able to sell due to the fact of share prices and manipulation of the market. And this also links in with the Mohammad bin Salman bid that has been reported that he's had 2 bids rejected and he's looking to make a third. Now, it's one of those things that you've got to look at is there's no smoke without fire sort of thing. Is all of this information coming out at just the right time that it could all link together? Because obviously, it seems a bit convenient that you hear about there are 2, maybe 3 bids from a wealthy owner. It's a bit of a questionable owner. Some people have been saying, obviously, there's the moral implications that some people have been commenting about, but it's about a person who apparently wants to buy United. And then, obviously, these reports of Glazers wanting to sell. So it's been interesting. My personal opinion is, it's an interesting situation because obviously you've got all of the other fans saying, oh, well, you're being bought by a Saudi owner. How does that make you any different to City? What I'd say is that it would, if you look at the complaints of United fans, one of the major things is that the United make a lot of money and get it all taken out of the club. Glazers factually have taken 1 billion, now over 1 billion out of the club. Even without investment from a Saudi owner, I don't think the Saudi owner would have to take any money out of the club. Or as much money. He doesn't have the need to do it. So that would be a positive. That means that the money could be reinvested. So it wouldn't be the case of, yes, we get loads of injection of cash. Might happen, might not. But then obviously the need for removal of money wouldn't be needed. So I say that would be the positives. But obviously there's a lot of differences. It might not even be true. And it's just a situation we have to look at and wait and see. Obviously get your comments in on the chat. We'll come back to them at the end. But yeah, what would you think? Would you like to see United bought? Would you like to see maybe a different direction? Because obviously a new owner might want to change the club, might want to restart again. And if we're on the way to going forward, that might not be the best move. It's an interesting thing to look at. But we're going to move on to obviously the current plan. Now the current plan is that United want additions. Ed Woodward in the same interview said that United need more additions, and one of the positions that we've obviously been struggling with recently is the midfield. Fred hasn't really been up to standard, and obviously once you get past that, the depth starts to drop off. We're going into the youth team for the bench. James Garner was on the bench for the first time in a while yesterday. He didn't get on the pitch, but it obviously shows the lack of midfield options. So there's been a couple of muted signings that we could make. One of those has been ex-Liverpool player Emre Can. Now, Sky Sports reported we're interested in signing the German midfielder, but not top of our targets list. He'd cost a reported 35 million. Now, this is one of those signings where a lot of things seem to go in United's favour. Obviously, he's played in the Premier League. He's coming into his prime years. He's 25 years old. And he's been left out of the Champions League squad and also seems to be getting reduced minutes under Sarri. Now, this could be because Juventus... It seems to be because Juventus seem to buy every midfielder under the sun, especially get on a free. They brought in Aaron Ramsey this season on a free. They've got Rodrigo Bentancur. They've got Matuidi. They still have Khedira. They have Pjanic. It's just there's a lot of players in his position. It might not be the fact that he's obviously playing badly, and his stats last season seems to show that he plays quite well. He has 3.2 tackles and interceptions per 90 in the league last season, 1.4 interceptions. Now that's 4.5 defensive actions per game. That adds a lot to a midfield. That allows you to regain possession, allows you to recycle possession. Also has 80% pass accuracy, and he makes just under 1 key passes a game from deep. So in terms of a sort of player that we need, that would be a great midfielder to have, a battling midfielder, someone who can pick up the ball, someone who can defend well, and someone who can pass effectively, because we don't have that at the moment at United. McTominay is doing it in a makeshift capability, but if you have someone who's more dedicated to that role, you could play Pogba and McTominay as more creative going forward as 2/8s. You could do a lot more with the midfield with someone who's more dedicated. And even if you don't think he's of the quality, it's another man in midfield. For 35 million is quite cheap in these days. He could be the next great signing for United, or he could just be, yes, we needed a man to rotate. We need a man who can play those games that we need when we're struggling. It's United needs someone in that midfield option, and he's one of the more realistic, I'd say, looking at all of the factors involved. Another one that's been muted is Dennis Zakaria from Mönchengladbach. According to Bild, Manchester United and Tottenham are interested in the 22-year-old midfielder, Swift midfielder, and apparently Mönchengladbach would accept a bid in the region of 44 million. Now, the Tottenham interest seems a bit weird, because obviously they spent a lot of money getting in Ndombele, and they also they got Lo Celso in on loan. So I don't think that they would be looking to invest. Also, with the lack of options they have at right back and their centre-back problems at the moment, I feel like that's where they would want to invest if they were going to invest in January or summer. So I think that they wouldn't be in for the Zakaria. Now, he's a defensive midfielder as well. He would, again, split into that Fred role. And I feel that's the sort of player you need. You need someone who's defensive, who can play the ball out, who can just settle the midfield. And that's the sort of player we seem to be looking at. And obviously, again, Pogba and McTominay were able to play further forward. So far this season, it's 3.9 combined tackles and interceptions per 90, has an 83.5% pass accuracy, and he wins just over 50% of his aerial duels. Again, good defensive numbers. A bit younger than Emre Can, a bit more in the sort of profile that Ollie's looking for, apparently, of 23-year-olds is the sort of opportune age he wants to go for. That's the sort of age he's looking at for his players. One that's just come to us in like the last 10 minutes, because David Ornstein released a piece for The Athletic talking about it, is some news on James Maddison. Not a defensive midfielder, obviously, would be creative going forward. Good number 10, obviously Premier League proven so far, doing well this season, did well last season. So David Ornstein, in many words, said he's spoken to all three parties, United, Leicester and the players' camp, and they all seem to feel that Maddison will move to Old Trafford within the next year. However, others do suggest it's likely he signs a new contract to improve his terms and protect his value to Leicester before leaving in the course of that new deal. That's a very similar situation to what we had with Harry Maguire. We wanted Harry Maguire a window before he signs a new deal. We then get rinsed for 75 million, which was a lot to pay. I mean, I'm not saying in the market of sort of sense of he's improved our team, but we did have to pay a premium. So it would probably be a similar situation. Would I love see Maddison on our team? Yes. He'd greatly improve it. He'd have another creative option, which I think is what we need. We need another outlet, and he would improve on what we have now, which is Pereira, and allow Pogba to not have the entire creative weight when he's playing. I think that it would be a great deal, and I feel like if we even have to pay upwards of 70 million, I feel like that would be a good player for United to sign. Go into the comments. Just one about would give Mata a deeper role. Mata having a deeper role, it's sort of like I made this joke yesterday of the Regista style for Mata, maybe playing as a deep playing playmaker. That'd be interesting to see. I mean, like, obviously I don't think he'd have the defensive output, but that's not really what we'd be looking for. I think we play him against teams where we need more. We definitely have more possession. So I mean, you could see it, but I don't think it'd be a top of my list of what we need to do. I think that's the only comment I'm going to go to. That's all for today. Like the video, subscribe if you're new, and that's all for this video.